So you're saying I can ask this cat any question?
The cat is connected to the computer. You just type in the question, it will read his mind. There the answer comes.
You're the man! I've been looking for this for weeks.
In this problem, we're asked to write a function rule for g of x and h of x based upon f of x using what we've learned about function transformations. So here's a table for f of x, table for g of x, and table for h of x. Let's first compare the table of values for f of x and g of x. Before we look at the graph, what we should notice is for the same x values, the function values for f of x and g of x are different. Notice all the function values for g of x are 1 more than the function values for f of x. And since the function values or y values for g of x are 1 unit larger than f of x, we should expect these points to be 1 unit higher on the graph. So the green points represent f of x, and the blue points represent g of x. And notice how each blue point is 1 unit higher than the green point. And because we have a vertical shift up, this is going to affect the value of d. Again, function g is 1 unit higher, so we can say g of x must equal f of x plus 1. And let's go ahead and test this using a value of x. So for example, if we select x equals 2, this is saying that g of 2 must equal f of 2 plus 1. Well, g of 2 is 6. F of 2 is 5, but 5 plus 1 is 6, so it checks. Now we'll compare the table of f of x to the table of h of x. And again, before we look at the graph, what we should notice here is that for the same function values, now the inputs, or x values, are different. Notice how for the same outputs, the x values for h are 1 larger than the inputs for f for the same output. For example, when the output is 5, the input for h is 3, and the input for f is 2. So if all the x values or inputs are 1 unit larger than the inputs for f, h of x should be shifted 1 unit to the right of f of x. If we take a look at the graph, again, the green points represent f of x, and the blue points represent h of x this time. Notice how the blue points are shifted 1 unit right from the green points. Which means for our function rule, this is going to affect the value of c. But remember, the sign of c is the opposite of what you might think. Because it's shifted right 1 unit, that means c is going to be -1, which means our function rule is going to be h of x equals f of the quantity x minus 1. And again, let's go ahead and test this. Let's select h of 2. Well, h of 2 must be equal to f of 2 minus 1 is 1. Notice h of 2 is 3, and f of 1 is equal to 3 as well. So this rule checks also. So whenever we're in doubt, I would suggest plotting the points to see what type of transformation has occurred. I hope you found this helpful.